good night to have some action. Welcome back into the BetQL Network with Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. You got college bowl games, you got college basketball games, you got NBA games, you got a little bit of UFC, and then also the NFL. This is the third of the three games now underway. Miami on the road at Buffalo. I felt like there was going to be like 10 feet of snow. So like everybody else, I think I played those unders right around 43 and a half. And damn it, the field actually looks pretty good right now. A couple of minutes into the game. 0-0. We'll keep you updated on BT's Dolphins, but let's talk some fighting with Erich Richter of the New York Post. This time last Saturday night, the main event was about to go down in a little while, right? And half of that main event was Magomed Ankalaev, and he thought he won the fight, and I would assume that you thought that he won the fight, but that one hurts a little more for you, huh, buddy? What happened?
Brutal. So I was on the show. I believe it was in July when Curtis Blades was fighting. I was talking about I had a couple futures on to be the champion at the end of the year. If you guys remember, I had Curtis Blades at 80-1. I had a Hamzat one, which is obviously dead, but I had Ankalaev one at 10-1. And
Yeah.
This bet actually got me kicked off of PointsBet at a certain point. I don't know if we ever talked about that, but this bet pretty much got me kicked off of PointsBet. Basically, I bet it. They moved the line, and then they haven't taken my action since. But I had Ankalaev to be the light heavyweight champion, 10-1, and my man was minus 2,000 in round 5, and a draw.
That's brutal.
I guess nobody wins. I don't know if I'll get my wager back because there is no champion at the end of the year. So
that's true. That's weird.
I don't think so, dude. I hate to tell you. I don't.
So they just cash out?
It feels like this is. I think, dude, it feels like this is in the fine print somewhere. But just because there's not a champion, which is a weird circumstance. I mean, it happens every now and again. Your bet was that a certain guy was going to be champ, and they could just tell
Correct.
you that by the verbiage of it, your guy's not the champion. So it sucks.
That's a good point.
I hate to tell you.
So yeah, basically, it just got screwed left and right. It was rough. I also had live bets on Ankalaev at plus 300 during round 3. That wasn't fun. Like that whole card just wasn't fun. I didn't bet Gordon. I don't know if you guys had any wagers on Gordon or Pimblett, but whoo, baby. I mean, did you guys have Pimblett or what?
No, I had Gordon going into that one, but I gotta ask Eric, like, are you as a bettor of the sport, are you concerned at all, like, with all of the noise that's around it right now, like the judging, the hiding of injuries, the scandal that's kind of all around it right now? You know, obviously we see what's happening in Canada right now. I don't think that's going to be the case here, but just the idea that there's just a lot of shadiness going on right now, and I don't really know if the UFC has a grasp on it quite yet.
So I actually did an interview on Wednesday with Dave Briggs from PlayCanada.com. Everyone wants to look at it. Basically, we had this exact conversation. It was like, how big of a problem is this for the UFC? To be totally frank about it, and I said it to Dave earlier last week. This seemed like a UFC problem more than it is like, yeah, Krause is like one guy who's like betting on fights, and we'll find out if he was betting against his fighters. But this shouldn't have been allowed from the start. The UFC is has a very hard hat, and they don't really listen to other people. And I feel like this has got to fall on Dana White for having the fact that a coach could bet on fights until October. The fact that rule didn't exist until recently, that's a major problem. So for me, like, yeah, I'm definitely concerned, and I've written articles about judging. I get mixed reviews back. Some people like the judging. Some people actually like the judging. Some people hate it, and they agree with me. But it's hard because what is the solution, right? Like, there's also budgets that the ABC has and that the Nevada State Athletic Commission has. Like, what can they afford to do? Right, like there's a whole like layer of that. So like I've said that there should be like a computer score, there should be like an expert score, but then it's like, how do you implement that without a serious budget to do it? So it's like, I don't know what the solution is, but I know that there's a problem. I do believe that the criteria needs to change because Ankalaev really won. If we're talking about damage, he won most of that fight. I mean, we're talking about damage here. So that's my problem with scoring and the betting thing. It's a little messy right now.
The other thing that was an issue this year is the idea of like people hiding injuries. Like we see in all the leagues, like NFL, there's an injury report. The Heat actually just had a thing with this where they got fined by the league and then trolled and put everybody on the injury report for the Spurs game today. But you think about like TJ Dillashaw going into a fight with a shoulder injury, things like this. Like gambling typically does rule for a lot of these guys. DraftKings is a lot of money in the UFC. Like, are we going to see a day and age where these guys are going to have to disclose stuff going into fights? So we know, like TJ Dillashaw's messed up going into this. Don't bet on him or bet with him because and know this is a part.
So it's same thing. It's a UFC problem because like James Krause said about Minner after the fight, he said, it sucks. Minner's obviously heartbroken, but he needed to pay the bills. So he had to go in there and fight. Right. So he went in there, knew he was going to lose. He went in there, tested it out, blew out his leg, whatever. That's a UFC problem. That's not Minner's fault. Minner hasn't fought in 6 months. He needs to get a paycheck. Right. There needs to be some sort of salary that fighters get that covers at least the bills for the year, and then you can get paid per fight. It doesn't need to be a lot of money. It just needs to be like a stipend or something, the tax-free stipend, something, because that in my opinion, that solves the problem in totality. Because then Minner is not going to be like, all right, let me heal up, and I'm still going to get this stipend. The UFC could afford to do it. They don't need a PI center in Africa. Like that's what they're doing, right? They don't need that. A stipend for fighters, I actually think, would solve that problem. But again, they have a really hard hat. They don't listen to anybody. So for me, I think it's a Dana White problem. I'd like to see a new commissioner, a new president come in, but alas, that's probably not going to happen. And I think this is going to be a problem for a while. And I do. Just to answer your question, I do feel like we could be in a situation where the UFC is a little bit compromised. I don't know if you guys saw, but Derek Lewis, when he was supposed to fight Spivak, his line tanked right before the fight. Parisian, when he was going to fight, his line tanked, and then he got pulled from the fight. Seems like there's some shady stuff going on, and that's not great.
Talking with our guy Erich Richter from the New York Post here on Tapped Out. Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine Sean Levine coming at you for another half hour and change. What's your thoughts about Paddy Pimblett? Did they change after not only his aerial run-in this week, but frankly, I know that he technically won that fight, but he lost that fight. Your thoughts about Paddy?
So I'm sure me and your producer Jake probably have talked about it a couple of times. I've been chomping at the bit to bet against Paddy, but I was waiting because the UFC's been feeding him some cakewalk matches. It's actually a little bit worse than I thought. I think Jared's okay, but I think that he should have won that fight going away. So I think that showing was really poor. I think he got exposed on there. And it's funny, a month ago I went to New York City and I met up with Ariel Helwani and I interviewed him. The article's up on the New York Post website if anyone wants to go look at it. But I met up with Ariel, and Ariel's a funny guy. He's always kind of like taking shots at people who have been treated him poorly. Like he was taking shots at Brendan Schaub the whole night in November when me and him were talking, and he was like, yo, if you want, like, here's like the UFC, this is all the contact information from the UFC, but like, don't tell them that you got it from me because they hate me. Like, that's what Ariel told me. He was like, you do not, like, you can call them, like, email them, whatever, but don't tell them you got it from me because they don't like me. Like, they literally hate me. That's not a joke. So just in terms of like that, I'm obviously team Ariel on that. Paddy was just lying. Paddy was just lying because his boss was there. About that whole aerial thing. He lost that fight. The judging was very strange. I forget what fighter it was, but someone said that in order to win a fight, you have to in order to win a fight against a star, you have to either finish him or clearly clearly win the decision. Because if it's close at all, the judges will take star power into effect. I forget which fighter it was, but that was something that I thought was pretty interesting. I don't necessarily disagree. Star power and like the crowd atmosphere, all of these things have an effect on a person, on a judge that's in that arena. So I agree with that. Could be a part of the decision. I'm not 100% sure if it was all of it, but a unanimous decision is pretty out there, in my opinion.
Eric, let's swing to tonight because the main event's going to go off fairly soon. Sean Strickland, Jared Cannonier, fascinating matchup. Two guys coming off of losses, but I think pretty parallel careers. They're both really good middleweights. I don't know if either one of them are championship caliber. Maybe they could be back in there. What do you think of this matchup? How do you like this one going tonight?
I'm very excited. I've watched this entire card. I don't know if you guys saw the before we get into the main. I don't know if you guys saw Rafa Garcia had an artery cut on his head. Woo! That picture's brutal. Anyway, I had to say that, but for the Strickland Cannonier fight, that's gonna be interesting. I think that Strickland's the volume striker here. My biggest question of the fight is Strickland, when he was down in welterweight, he was using his wrestling a lot to get him into like good places. He refused to wrestle against Pereira, got knocked out. I'm not sure if he can wrestle with Cannonier. I actually I think that Cannonier may potentially, like, Strickland could prove me wrong here, but I said he has the power advantage, so I don't think Strickland's going to go in there and shoot. I'd actually say that Cannonier is a better bet to wrestle successfully. Not volume wise, but I think in terms of success, I'd actually value Cannonier's wrestling a little bit more than Strickland because I haven't seen Strickland do it at this weight class. And obviously, power edge goes to Cannonier. I'm going to take Cannonier on that one. I have a bet on Cannonier. I also have a bet on Goes Decision, and then I also have a bet on Cannonier by decision. So I got all three of those running. Hopefully, I hit that and I get little 3-unit hit, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't love this matchup for Strickland. I like his volume striking. I just don't know if the power is going to be a little bit much for him. He got flatlined by Pereira. That was a little bit concerning from my perspective as a bettor. That's just concerning for me. Seeing that, he got absolutely flatlined. It's not great.
Couple minutes left with New York Post Erich Richter here on Tapped Out. The odds makers are having a little bit of trouble with this one also. It's basically even money. Right now, you can get Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla, minus 119 to come back on Sean Strickland, who all of a sudden becomes a favorite, albeit a slight one, at minus 102. So we'll call it even money for Sean Strickland. This will be the last time we chat with you in 2022. The fight that I'm looking forward to most in 2023 is Islam versus Volkanovski. I can't even start to form an opinion of which guy I think is going to win that fight. So what about you?
I was actually looking at that one right during the fight card tonight. I was like, what do I have to look forward to? And generally, it's the last card. I'm a little sad. I'm going to miss the fights, So I was looking at it a little bit. I saw that Islam opened as a minus 400 favorite with Volkanovski coming up at plus 300. Now he's about plus 280. Volkanovski's a lot smaller. He's a ton smaller. Islam's a really good grappler. For me, I would say you're looking at Islam by decision. That was a crazy finish. I don't know if you guys just saw that.
Yeah, I just watched it. Jeez.
Ooh, baby. So there's that one. Big favorite wins by finish there. But yeah, so I would say that Islam by decision would be my bet if I could get it above plus one. Above plus 120. That was a crazy.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
I love doing live radio during the fights. I saw third round.
It's been a vicious last 3 fights, dude.
Wow. Yo, oh my God. I had Bobby Green by decision. I'm so bummed out because he looked amazing in the first round. I was like, this Bobby Green forever. Nope.
Until he didn't. Until his eyes were in the back of his head. I mean, we've seen a lot of knockouts on this card already.
Perhaps everybody maybe the fighters got the meeting like, you know what, judges, not for us. We don't trust you guys.
Yeah.
But actually, though, especially in the Apex with the smaller octagon, when are they going to go away from that next year? That's my question. Yeah. So one thing that I'm looking forward to about this card, and I'm actually looking forward to the co-main event more than I'm looking forward to the main event. I'm looking forward to Tarzukian versus Ismagulov. Because I think if Tarzukian wins, I think you could be looking at maybe one more fight and then a rematch with Islam Makhachev. I don't know how that fight would line up in terms of betting odds, but man, that fight would be really exciting. I'd love to see, because just at that light heavyweight championship, I don't see Volkanovski winning that fight. I just think he's way smaller. I think Islam's going to have his way on the grappling. So, I mean, I don't know who else can contend.
Islam would come in as like a minus. Those odds that you just gave me in the fight against Volkanovski absolutely blow my mind. He'd come in as like a minus 700 if he fights anybody but him. But
you think so?
We'll see. At some point, he's going to lose. Erich Richter of the New York Post, good friend of the show, always great content, brother. We appreciate you tonight, and every time that you've come on the show, always great stuff.
I missed you guys. I'm so happy you guys are here, and let's have a great 2023. Let's run it up.
Absolutely. We missed you too, man. Let's make some money in 2023. Erich Richter, you can follow him on Twitter at Erich, ERICHTERRR. That's right. That's his Twitter account. Erich Richter joining us here on Tapped Out. Coming up next, we will get you updated on everything that's happened on this card. We'll give you the method to the madness for the co-main and the main event. We'll try to get parlayed because, it's Saturday night. And then I got to call out. I got to get this one off my chest. I can't wait to take the microphone and take those 30 seconds. We got a lot to get to and not a lot of time to do it. Final segment of Tapped Out. You're locked into the BetQL Network.